Welcome, everybody, back to There Will Be Bets. I am your host, Cole Oxane. As always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jake LaSalle and Drew LaSalle. We're back, hopefully here to close up most, if not all, of our NBA Round 1 playoff series. We're getting to the home stretch of Round 1. We've got a couple of series that have officially ended. The Thunder and the Spurs have taken care of business. They're like the only teams in the league that apparently could take care of business. This has been one of the longer round ones with as many teams going this deep that I can remember. But we're here to break down all of the Thursday and the potential Friday games, and we'll kind of just talk about where we see these series going and if we're going to have a lot of games coming up this weekend that are round one. It's going to be round two. We'll cover all of what we can at the moment. And again, we'll cover anything with a line. We'll talk about any of the theoreticals if a situation plays out, especially because we're recording here on Wednesday. There's a couple of games going on now that if they go a certain way could end up resulting in another game. So we'll cover all of that here in this episode. We'll break down a couple of the big storylines here, but jumping right into it, guys, how are we feeling these series? I know Jake and I were just talking offline that you hate it when these series start to run long because weird stuff starts to happen, especially when you have futures involved. How are we feeling any of these series that have gone completely different than you were expecting? Any of them you're loving these outcomes? How are we feeling here midweek as we look to end Game 6 and any of the sevens that we could get?
Yeah, I'm definitely surprised on a couple of the series. I'm surprised the Celtics have struggled as much as they have, and also the Cavs. I'm surprised they've struggled as much as they have. We said that, you know, those 4 or 5 matchups with a huge win discrepancy going into the postseason usually favor a quick series for the home team, but obviously it's at 2-2, so it's been a little bit different than we expected. The Nuggets obviously different than we expected. Ant has been injured and out of games, and they still are losing the series. But we'll touch on that. I think that series is still live, obviously, because of the injuries. But yeah, it's been kind of crazy. Like you said, it might just be that the only really good teams are the Thunder and the Spurs, and the Spurs minus one game where Wemby got injured, have taken care of business. So might only be two top teams, and the rest are just beatable.
I think, yeah, I'd echo a lot of what Jake mentioned. I think the East is wide open. I think it's why we talked about the Cavs with a chance to get to the East Finals if they can somehow get by Customs. And that the Celtics are not the same team they were last year. This team is super 3-point reliant, and when it's not falling, you can see a performance like last night where they just look lost for long stretches of that game against a team that the Sixers are fine defensively. They're not world beaters. Like Maxey has his issues on the defensive end. There's ways that you can attack them, but this is not the same diverse offensive team that the Celtics were the last couple of seasons, and it was reflective last night. But yeah, I think assuming they are able to get it done, the Knicks are able to get it done in Game 6 against the Hawks, I think that's a pretty wide open series that will likely determine who goes to the finals, in my opinion. I think Detroit has its issues, the Magic have issues, Cavs clearly have issues, so whoever comes out of that side, I think ultimately loses to the winner of the Knicks Celtics, assuming they both get through in Game 6.
I think that's an interesting point. Obviously, we'll break it down more when we get to the second round, again, assuming Knicks close out business and then the Celtics take care of business, and that's who they end up meeting. I'm going to say it right now, the Knicks are very live in that series. They're very, very live in that series. And I'm curious to see what that series will be priced at. But again, we'll cover that when we get there. I agree with what Jake's saying, especially that even at this point, the Spurs, they looked good, but I don't really buy a lot of what Portland was selling. They passed the first test. So that was the thing, is it was, hey, this is a young team with no playoff experience. Then you throw in a Wemby injury. They overcome all of that. So they at least passed their first test. But right now, there's only one team I'm confident in. And it's the team that we all know is the best team in the league, is the Thunder. And I have not seen anything out of any of these teams that could potentially meet them. I definitely don't think the Lakers or Rockets can push them. And the Spurs are really the only team because they've had their number all year. But even then, again, you still have your questions of them being a young team. And no one in the East looks good enough to beat them. So that's kind of where I'm sitting. It's like, is this just a coronation of a back-to-back that we're all just kind of acting like all these other series matter? So that's kind of where I'm sitting. But I guess then the question in the West is, if we're talking Spurs and who they could potentially play, Are the Nuggets actually live here, or are the Timberwolves going to take care of business at home? I don't know what to make of this. It's getting tougher and tougher for me. It feels like it has to be Denver, but is Denver actually live, or are we just like buying into this because it's fun?
I think they're definitely live. After watching that game, we said it as soon as the injuries happened that Julius Randle was probably going to be the one that has to step up. And I mean, he shot 15 shots and 11 free throws, scored 27 points, which clearly means he was the guy that needed to step up. He stepped up, and they still lost by 12. I think this team just doesn't have enough firepower, and the Nuggets still have the best player in the world and a couple other really good players. So I just don't think they have the firepower to close this series out.
Say that line in Game 6 is interesting. We'll go deeper into that, but 5.5 feels stinky. It feels like I'm supposed to bet the Timberwolves, and yeah, I'll leave it at there. We'll go into that game. I think it has to happen in Game 6 if the T-Wolves are going to win this series. If they go back to Denver, it is over, in my opinion.
Yeah, if it goes back to Denver, you can't give me an alternate high enough in that game. If it goes back to Denver, I will be on every alternate possible in a Game 7 scenario. I will say, this is not necessarily a critique of Jokic long term, but as of right now, after what I've seen in these playoff series, and Gobert's a great defender and everything, I think I take a little bit of umbrage with what Jake said. I don't think the Nuggets have the best player in the world right now. After what I saw in the series out of him, I think it's Shea. I think that's the dude I want right now. Look better than Jokic.
I'm not
That's
a
a crazy thing
merchant.
to say. He wasn't a free throw merchant in the Sun series, though. If you go back and look at how he played, he just dominated that series flat out.
You could beat the Suns.
I mean, I appreciate the confidence, and yes, the Suns are not a great team, but he was dominant. And again, going back to, I think the Thunder are just the team to beat, and it's not even close right now. If Shea keeps playing that way, I don't think it matters. I really don't. But that being said, Jokic is still Jokic. You're right. As long as he doesn't have a total stinker of a game, I don't think the Nuggets should lose this series. I agree with you guys that they're live. But and then again, that series has been weird. It's been ugly. And I feel like there's one turn left. I don't know if it's them just losing and us ending up with the Timberwolves, or if it's, a weird, crazy game that zaps a lot of energy or whatnot. But I feel like Game 6 is going to end up being weird, and somebody, I don't know if it's going to be Terrence Shannon. I don't know if it's going to be another Ayo Dosunmu game. I don't know who it's going to be, but I feel like somebody for the Timberwolves, other than Julius Randle's coming out of the woodwork. I'm curious to see if it's going to happen or not. Staying in the Western Conference, though, I want to play a little choose your own adventure, because obviously we're sitting here before the next Rockets-Lakers game. We're not actually covering that because of the way the series played out. But let's just say, fast forward 24 hours, do we still have a Rockets-Lakers series, or does LA get it done? And then either way, does either team have a remote chance against OKC? What is your guys' take?
Live. The fatigue is setting in. Bro put up 8 points and 5 rebounds. The fatigue is setting in.
I think he had 10, but it's over in this next game. Put him to bed. Get KD shipped to Cancun. Their season is about to end. But no, neither of these teams have any chance against the Thunder. I expect we'll see a juiced 1.5, maybe minus 250, but there's not a world where you can't expect to be on the Thunder spread in that series against the Lakers. So it'll be fun. They are not live. The Rockets will lose in Game 5.
I think it gets interesting. I know this is a crazy thing to say. I think it gets interesting if they don't take care of business tonight. I tend to agree with Drew. They're favored tonight. I think they'll probably win tonight. I do. If all of a sudden it goes back to Houston, it starts to get weird. It really does. And this Lakers team, I do agree with Jake. I just in general, and it's not because of the whole LeBron fatigue thing. Take whatever. At this point, there's literally so much proof that that's not a thing, that you're the only thing less likely is an apocalypse at this point. But I think if it goes back to Houston, this Lakers team is just not built to continue to play game after game after game and execute the way they did early in the series. I do think it gets interesting. I do agree with Drew. I think the Lakers are going to get it done today, but I don't know. That series stinky. but Drew is right. There's not a world where I'm looking anything but Thunder. If Luka comes back for the Lakers, I could at least see myself betting his props. But even then, OKC's defense has always been so good against Luka. I don't know. So I think that's kind of where it stands for me.
Yeah, I think the Thunder might lose a game, but more than likely, I could see a sweep.
I think Shams already came out and said Luka's probably out round 2 as well. So yeah, it's GG. But let's get it done tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, that makes sense. Ultimately, if you're the Lakers, I think what you want is you want to win this series, let LeBron have that lasting legacy game. Go, get smacked. Everyone knows you can't beat the Thunder. Then you can just move on, right? LeBron can go, move on. Luka doesn't have to come back, risk serious injury, and now you can start your build for the future around Luka. That's probably the ideal scenario for the Lakers, and they can say they overachieved. As Drew requested, you have seen J.J. Redick actually prove he can coach. I think it's a very successful end to the season for the Lakers, given all the injuries, if that's how it plays out. Again, if they start to falter a little bit, then people are going to start to question things, and it could get ugly. So I think for the Lakers' sake, they do need to just take care of business tonight. And if they do, I think that means we probably won't see any Bronny James unless it's a blowout by them. But it would be fun to see some Bronny James one more time, just because I love the discourse whenever he gets in the game, even if it is for cool moments like that alley-oop we saw. So we'll see how that game plays out. Again, we're choosing our little bit of our own adventure. Sounds like Jake definitely thinks the Rockets are still alive. Drew and I think Lakers are going to take care of business. We'll see who's right. You'll know the next time we record whether or not we were right. So that'll be fun for us to kind of choose our own adventure there. One thing that we're going to touch on here real quick, nothing to do with the NBA, but as you guys know, from time to time, we like to rant on this podcast. And boy, do I have a rant this week. I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a near tragedy that happened in the country this last week. The NCAA announced that they're expanding the field to 78 teams for the NCAA tournament. When I tell you that I had to take a seat and have a big, deep breath after I read this, I was devastated. This is going to ruin what is otherwise a perfect product. I cannot believe that we are expanding the tournament to just let in a bunch more of these ugly, disgusting power conference teams, all in the name of money. I saw the schedule. Apparently, we're going to have like 6 games a day on Tuesday and Wednesday leading into the tournament. So now your 2-day event on Thursday and Friday has become a 4-day thing, and it's going to get crazy. You're going to miss games. You're going to have to watch crappy teams. It's going to screw over mid-majors. I could do a whole separate episode on this, and in fact, I might. These guys are out of town next weekend. I might just do like a 30-minute solo podcast where I rant just about this. But I had to get this off my chest because, like I said, this is a national nightmare. It truly is. If the president has anything he can do about this and wants to win back some of his approval, he needs to veto this right now. That's my take on this whole thing. So I just need to get that off my chest, guys. I don't know if you've had any time to think about this. It's about the only thing I can think of right now.
I think it's 76 teams, not 78, but yes, the sentiment is still the same.
I was so frustrated I said 78 because it's 68 now.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think we touched on it maybe even offline or maybe like briefly around just how ridiculous this was, and that how realistic it was that it was going to happen was not something that we were really taking seriously. And I get that like there's a money component to it of like some of these teams, especially in the high major level, like getting to play a tournament game is like good from a revenue perspective. But yeah, like if you just look at who would have been included this past season, if it was a field of 76, what an absolute doormat fest that we would have had with the Auburns of the world getting included as a 15, 16 loss team. Like it's definitely a lower quality product that we'd be subjected to, more of an NIT feel in terms of the teams that would be included. With this, the eight is crazy. Like that's such a waste of our time and everybody else's. Like, I don't want to hear about the bubble ever again if you're crying about how you didn't get into the field of 76. Like, get out of here with that. I don't want any more bubble talk.
Yeah, the bubble's over. And I mean, this is just, I'm not even like, just obviously we'll pay attention. We're the type of people who will understand it. I feel bad. Like, there are genuinely casual fans who like to get into the tournament, and they're going to look at their bracket and they're not going to know who like 8 of the matchups are. because it's two teams. It's crazy. Like, how could you have that significant amount of the tournament not even be set till 2 days before? Mind-boggling, right? I'm done. I'm sorry. I could go all day here, but I just can't believe it.
It'd be more okay if it was like they were adding a bunch of mid-major teams, or like maybe like adding some slots to like other It's just like, why do you need the 8th best SEC team? Why do what are they gonna do?
I think it's more like the
precisely.
12th
And
best
of course, they're going to
SEC
try and pitch
team.
it like it's going to help the mid-majors.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd probably is more like 12. Yeah, they're going to pitch it like that, but yeah, disgusting. I can't believe it. Like I said, truly, I've lost sleep over this. And I don't know if that says more about me or the NCAA tournament, but it has been brutal over here in my household hearing this news. So, but all right, real quick. Also have one other thing to touch in, then we'll hop into the matchups. But just wanted to point out that we're in a situation now where all of these series are sitting at 3-2 or potentially 3-2. Any of the ones we're covering that are still going on when you would have heard this will have gotten to 3-2. One note on teams who are down 3-2, historically speaking in the first round, they are 57-299 in the series. That's roughly a 16% series win rate. So what that tells you is when Jake says that the Rockets are live, they get to 3-2. Obviously, that's not even including them being down 3-1, but they get to 3-2. It is still an unlikely situation. That also plays out for all these other teams we're talking about that are down 3-2 in the first round. Now, some teams like the Nuggets, where there's an injury, this probably changes things a little bit. But historically speaking, these teams that are down 3-2 do not win the series very often. So what that tells you is if you're really eyeing those series prices, you better check twice, maybe even look into playing moneyline rollovers or other options instead of going all in on a team that's down 3-2. Just wanted to throw it out there. Again, it'll affect some of the handicap on these, but that's just one stat that did come to light while I was looking at stats like I always do. I thought it was at least worth mentioning here.
I mean, the Rockets also did have an injury.
Because the Lakers didn't.
But he hasn't played the whole series, so like that's
neither.
Yeah, in fairness, it was baked in. Yeah,
technically, he's only played one game.
Now, if Reeves comes back, that does.
Seems like he.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. He's playing the rest of the series. That's what we're saying. Like with the Nuggets, like never mind.
With the Ant thing you're talking about, yeah.
So I mean, in general, like I said, the real takeaway there is just think twice before you just blindly think, oh, these teams are live. It doesn't happen as often as you think. So that's just one to throw it out there. Word to the wise, some caution. That's all I'm putting out. Well, all right, guys, if you are enjoying the video, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell as well so you get notified every time we upload. We're going to continue all of our breakdowns throughout the NBA playoffs, and then we'll go into the summer getting ready for football season, so you're going to want to stay tuned for all of that, as well as stay tuned to our social media pages. We are everywhere at There Will Be Bets. That's where we're putting out our daily clip content and our most up-to-date picks, especially for some of these series that we're going to be covering today where we're not quite sure if there's going to be another game. You'll get our up-to-date picks for all of those on the days and days before those games over on social media, especially if they happen between some of our episodes. So you're going to want to stay tuned in there to make sure you don't miss any of that. All right. Well, Thursdays, at least today, we have some legitimate lines that have already been set in games we know are going to be happening. So we'll jump into these here first, starting with Knicks versus Hawks. Knicks are -2.5 on the road in Atlanta. Totals around 214.5. Guys, it kind of feels like the Knicks have the series figured out based on how, the last game ended and even the game before that kind of went, at least in the second half. Is it crazy just to say that the series is pretty much over? Does Atlanta have a fighter's chance? I know I kind of gave out my series script a couple games ago. It's all according to my master plan so far, so hopefully they take care of business. But what do you guys feel in this game? Any looks? We go in the same plays? We changing up? What are we looking at here? Jake, what do you have?
Yeah, no, I've agreed with you most of this series. I think you've nailed the series thus far. I think the Knicks, the line's 2.5. I think it's a little crazy. I think they've completely switched up their defensive scheme around handling this Hawks team. Sadly for us McCollum bettors for points per game throughout the series, they took a traffic cone off of him, and now he actually is struggling to score the ball. So which has drastically hurt their offensive output. They finally started getting Cat more involved. He's been absolutely dominating the past few games, and I think they just have it figured out. One of the main things I'm looking at in this next game would be Knicks spread, Knicks alts. I think they just take care of business and do it pretty handily.
Crazy that Cat only took 7 shots in that game. He seemed so much more involved on the offensive end, and unfortunately didn't hit his points and assists for me. But yeah, I talked about Bridges under points in our last episode. I'm going to go back at it again. His number isn't listed, at least not that I can see yet, but it's been floating between like 12, 13. He's gone under in every game in this series. He continues to be very hesitant on offense now. I think like the first couple of games of the turnover factory kind of stuck with him a little bit, and he's really focused his attention more on the defensive end. So I'll likely be back on his under. Also might take a look at Daniels over assists. Only had 5 last game, but I think script was pretty big part of why that stayed a little lower. He's been pretty strong all series in there, so I'll be looking at his assists over as well.
Yeah, I think both of those are kind of consistent themes that we've seen throughout the series, so why not just stick with the consistent themes, especially for Drew. I agree with what Jake was saying. I think that what has flipped this entire series is Mike Brown, which I know no one loved the Mike Brown hire. He is a defensive-first coach, and he has been the defensive mind on some pretty good teams, including some of those Warriors championship teams. And I think he's proving why he at least has some value to the Knicks right now, because that changed this entire series. It gave the Knicks enough juice on defense, and it provided the spark they needed to go and actually blow open one of these games. And again, let's flip the series on its head. It's no news to anyone who's followed the trends, but Knicks' first half has been pretty much a printing press most of the year. It was a printing press again in the last game. I think if you don't have a Knicks future in any way, looking there is a good idea. Or, again, if you like what Jake's saying with the Knicks alts, I think that makes sense too. But I would lay the Knicks spread if I didn't already have my Knicks future I gave out last episode. So I'm going to be rooting for the Knicks. I essentially have them now at a big, nice money line. But if I didn't, I would be taking the Knicks minus 2.5. I think that's the side I want to play. I think the props these guys gave out all make sense to me. I just won't be getting involved on the prop side because I am just trying to bring home a big cash on basically doubling down on my Knicks futures here. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this game. Any other thoughts, guys? Jake, I know Josh Hart, the rebounds just didn't come through for us in the end. It was still a great number you got. So, I'll send you the CLV trophy. I have it, but I'll send it to you if you want it.
Yeah, it was a tough one. He just Cat turned it on. I mean, he is one of the better players in the league, and he proved it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see if the Knicks can take care of business. Obviously, it will be very upsetting for me personally and probably for all of us here if the Knicks do drag this out to 7 because it will cost us in some significant ways. So we're going to hope the Knicks take care of business and cover that number for anyone who takes that as well. But we'll move on to the next game. That's going to be Nuggets minus 5.5 versus the Timberwolves. This game in Minnesota. Again, we actually have 3 road favorites here on Friday, which is kind of interesting just to note the way these games are all playing out and the way these series played out. But Nuggets minus 5.5. I feel like it's got to be Nuggets. You just, like Drew said at the top of the show, you cannot convince me that this 5.5 is enough points with the current state of the Timberwolves. I get that they're back at home, and I get how the home court math works. You just can't convince me. If you're going to play this game on the spread, it's Nuggets or nothing for me. That's where I'm looking at it. Jake, I think you agree with me.
Yeah, I think that I would agree. I lean the Nuggets, and I think that's the only way to play. I haven't decided yet if I'm actually going to take it. I don't think you can bet the Timberwolves. I just think it's a really tough spot, and just in general, I think this Nuggets team is just a better team, and they're starting to figure it out a little bit. One thing I am looking at is, like I said before, I think the Timberwolves played a really, really good game. Randall shot really well, and they still lost. I'm actually looking toward the Timberwolves team total under. I think the offensive output, like I said, just isn't quite there without Ant, without DiVincenzo. I think that they struggle in this next game, and so I think they put up a stinker.
Hey, I said at the top, I think the line is pretty ratty. It's a little stinky to me. I lean small T-Wolves money line. If they're gonna cover, I think they win the game. But I don't love it. There's a couple props I like more. With DiVincenzo and Ant out of the mix, you saw Conley and Kyle Anderson minutes take a big jump up, and with it, so did their ball handling, facilitating responsibilities. So I'll be looking at Conley assists over. It was at 3.5 in game 5. He ended up getting to 4. I think Kyle Anderson's was even lower, maybe like 1.5, 2.5, and he ended up getting to 6. But both went over 15 minutes, and I think they're really going to be counted on to kind of dictate pace on offense for the T-Wolves in Game 6 as well. So I'll be looking at both of their assist prop overs. I'll let you take the Naz Reid love.
Yeah, we shouted this out before the last game, and I think we go right back to this well if you saw the line movement here. So it's Naz Reid over 1.5 threes. We got it at a solid plus number last game. Look at the line movement here. They're now putting it at regular prop price, even a little bit juiced to a minus number. I think anything up to about 125 is still good here. Naz Reid got the volume we wanted because he had to replace some of the three-point shooting from DiVincenzo. I think he's going to do it again, and probably even a little bit more in this game, because if the Timberwolves are going to win this game, they're going to need production out of other people not named Julius Randle. I think Naz Reid is one of those guys. We've covered it ad nauseum. This Denver defense gives up three-pointers at a pretty high rate, especially below the break. Naz Reid can hit those at a pretty consistent clip, and we only need him to hit 2. So if he's going to shoot the 5 or 6 that I think he will, that's not a bad percentage for a guy who shoots that percentage anyway. So love that play. Going to go right back to that well. If we get a Game 7, mark it right now. We'll be back on that look again, I promise you. Otherwise, like I said, I agree on the Nuggets. I think that's where I'm going to play it. I'm going to lay the points with the Nuggets. I agree with what Drew said. Based on the stats that we read out at the beginning of the playoffs, if you like a team to cover, you like them to win. If you like Minnesota in this spot, you have to go all the way. You have to take them to win the game. And in fact, I would even maybe look at playing some alts the other way on some minus numbers on the Timberwolves. If you like the Timberwolves, I think you have to go all in on it. I think I like Denver. I'm going to go ahead and play that way, and then I'm going to bank on Naz Reid being the way I play on the Timberwolves in this game. But that's kind of my thought process on if you're looking at these sides. You have to go all the way in on the Timberwolves because this is the game, like Drew said, where they're going to take care of business. Game 7 without Ant, not going to be a good spot for them to be in. So I think that's the way you play this game if you like those looks. Anything else, guys, on this one, or are we just kind of going to wait and see? And hopefully this one at least lives up to the billing and isn't a dud like some of the other games in this series.
Yeah, the only other thing was just pray that Murray keeps the point lead, and if it closes out or if this game closes out the series, at least if Murray is on top with points, then we're fine.
Definitely, it's going to get sketchy if it goes 7. It's going to get sketchy if it goes 7. That's all I can say. So let's at least hope he has a big game and keeps at least a small lead. I don't want to go into Game 7 him trailing and needing to outscore Jokic. That I don't want. So let's just at least keep it even, and I can live with that. All right, well, final game on Friday. Celtics -5.5 versus the Sixers. Games in Philadelphia. I know Drew had called it. He said we weren't going to need this game. Evidently, we do need this game. The math, not math for the Celtics. But I think we all kind of are leaning the Celtics taking care of business in this game. We're all just going to play it in different ways. So, Jake, what are you looking at?
Yeah, the Celtics, they play the same way every game. It's the math game. And the big thing about the Celtics is if they struggle in one game, you hope that regression turns the other way and they start hitting their threes, and that leads to a blowout. Celtics they play 2 ways. They either struggle vitally and they kind of get blown out themselves, or the threes are hidden and they blow out teams. So the way I'm looking at it is I think that they had a struggling game last game against the Sixers, and I feel like you're getting an even more of a premium than you did last game because, it's in Philadelphia, so it's a -5.5, and you play the Celtics alts again and just hope that the math goes the other way.
Makes a lot of sense to me. We've been calling that script pretty much every game this series, and it's played out that way. I think if you would have taken the alts every game, you still would have netted out positive despite the losses, just because, again, that's the way it kind of plays out. Drew, what are you looking at? Looks like you're playing some player prop stuff here. Anything on the side for you?
I would agree with the Celtics look. I mean, I think Tatum was like 4 of 12 from 3. I don't know why he's taking such high volume, but that's kind of the Celtics game like we're talking about, and they were 28% overall as a team from 3, so assume that flips and they play a little bit better, and that generally leads to the Sixers not being able to keep up. But my favorite play here, number probably, I think it was 13.5 was what I took it at in Game 5, was Derek White under points. He's been under in every game in this series so far, been struggling mightily from 3. I think he's 7 of 33 in the series overall, so definitely going through it a little bit from 3-point land. I expect it to continue. I think for the most part, you've seen Edgecombe on him, maybe Oubre at times, but yeah, I think he continues his struggles, and you see him go under. The other one I'm looking at, not for sure going to be a play. Talked about Edgecombe under a couple games ago. He's cooled off since his big 30-point output in game 2, I believe that was. Might be looking at his under points as well. But still TBD to see what that line looks like.
I think that makes sense if you're kind of looking at a regression type game, that you would want to go some negative regression on behalf of the 76ers along with some of the positive regression of the Celtics. The play I like the most in this game is actually Jason Tatum over 6.5 assists. Jason Tatum has consistently gone over this number pretty much since his return, except notably last game where he only had 4 assists. I think that goes perfectly coincided with the fact that the Celtics only scored 97 points, shot terribly. I think when the Celtics shoot well, that obviously means there's more assists, and Jason Tatum has been passing the ball and hitting those numbers. So I'm going to go back to it. Again, hitting it like an 80% clip since he came back from injury. So I'm going to trust that he can get to at least the 7 line there, which he has done every game in the series except last game. And kind of to echo what these guys said, I like the Celtics as well. I think you lay the 5.5. I think you look at the alts again, trust the math. Go one last time. I think they take care of business, and they're going to move on here. And again, like we said, if you like a team to win, you like them to cover. So at the very least, I think the 5.5 is the play there. One last note on the Celtics, just to reinforce what we've been saying. The Celtics in the playoffs since 2020, so basically this quote-unquote modern version of the Celtics, obviously 2 different coaches in there, but this modern version of the Celtics are 17-5 against the spread after a loss in the playoffs. So it fits the narrative of they mess around, they lose a game, they come back, they belt. It's kind of what they do. So if you like that, I think that backs up the trend there as well. So I definitely think the Celtics is the side. I love Tatum assists. Drew shouted out a couple props as well. Anything else, guys, before we move on?
I was going to echo what you said on the assists, because it's the same thing that we've been talking about. You shoot 26% from the 3, you expect that to, turn over a leaf, get like 30, 34 or somewhere in that range. And that just coincides with his assists, because just 1 or 2 more of his passes drops down.
Then obviously, for the sake of all of us, we're going to hope that he at least gets his 7 rebounds to keep his average up above 10 for the series. That will be big. So we're not going to play any rebounds here, but I'm hoping Jason Tatum puts up a nice stat packing type of game, if I had to say so myself. That will take us to Friday. So obviously this is where we get into the section of if needed games and games that we know will happen, but we don't have a line for yet. We'll start with a game that we know will be happening. It is the Cavs versus the Raptors. This will be back through Customs in Toronto. We don't have a line or a total yet because as we record here on Wednesday night, they are playing Game 5. So, again, we can speculate based on previous games. Probably will be Raptors plus 3.5, plus 4.5 at home. And we'll see how this game plays out tonight to see if anything drastically would change that. But, Jake, I know you said it on the previous episode. People saw it on social media today about looking under in this series. Is that where you're going again no matter what happens?
Yeah, we're recording during the game 6, game 5, no, game 5. Well, yeah, we're recording while game 5 is going on right now, and it looks like there's a high level of scoring going on, which I know is not a consistent basis. So yes, in the next game, I'll be looking at the unders once again.
Gotcha. Drew, if there's one thing that has been consistent for us in this playoffs, it has been this guy. Are you looking at Colin Murray Boyles yet again?
Always, man. This is like my child in this playoffs. He's off to a slow start in this game 5, but the minutes are still there. Like, he's got 7 minutes so far in the first half, and that's been the sentiment. It's not a belief in that this guy is like this unbelievable talent and just incredible shot maker. It's purely he's on the court more, and a body is a body, and the guy is a gritty lunch pail guy, gets after it on the offensive and defensive end. So I expect we'll get a 21.5 PRA, and I'll likely be on it again.
Yeah, I will probably, even if he doesn't hit tonight, I will look at it again, because I think at this point his spot in their rotation is cemented, at least for this series. And then obviously moving into either if they find a way to win the series or into next year, reevaluate. But I think he is definitely in the rotation now. So if that number keeps popping in the low 20s, count me in. It's going to probably hit more times than not the way the series is playing out. Otherwise, I think that you just have to keep looking Cavaliers. I know the Raptors have been friskier than we had expected, but I just think it's one of those situations where you have to keep trusting that the better team will win and cover more often. And again, trusting those stats. I just think the Cavaliers are the spot. Again, we'll see how Game 5 plays out tonight, but I was on them tonight to win and cover. So I think I'm going to be looking the same way in that. And then if we end up in a Game 7, probably we'll be looking that way as well. Otherwise, I don't have much more other than I need Donovan Mitchell to keep his 3-point percentage up. Looks like he's 3 for 3 from 3 tonight.
So I was just going to say that.
Lead the series in threes.
I'll say he's got 3 midway through the second, so we live.
No. But speaking of we live.
Oh, here we go. All right. Well, now we're into the if needed territory. And the one that Jake is on is the Rockets-Lakers. We have to live in a world where we assume, for this case scenario, that the Lakers do lose tonight. Do we think it's all Rockets in Houston in Game 6? Is that how we would look at this? Or would you want to play this game any other way? What are we thinking?
Anybody can win any game in this series. Both these teams suck. That line will be 3.5 Houston, like 2.5
Very
Houston.
true.
Like, I would probably be back on Lakers money line if they lose Game 5. I think Reeves plays tonight. I don't know if they've announced if he's playing or not, but neither of these teams can score consistently. Like you said, Cole, the Lakers were executing at a high level through 3 games, hitting a lot of threes. Marcus Smart is not that guy. The second that we start to regress back to what we should be, we're going to lose a game or two. And there's no reason to think that if Reeves is fully healthy, or at least 90%, that added shot making could not be a difference against this woefully bad Rockets team.
One of the looks I do like in this series still is the Amen Thompson look. He has had to play a significantly higher role in this series. His points have been going over. His rebounds are about on his average, but I feel like he's been consistently going after the glass. So I'll probably be looking towards him in Game 5 and 6.
Yeah, as long as Durant's out, I think you're right about Thompson. Him and Sengun have to be the two guys that carry the scoring. I think I like Thompson's game a lot better than I like Sengun's game. Now, obviously, the shooting struggles are there. If there's one thing we learned in this playoffs, guys who just hustle are earning more minutes and more possessions for their team. We saw whether it's a guy like Murray Boyles, it's both of the Thompson brothers in their own perspective on their own teams with the Pistons and the Rockets. I mean, even we're seeing it in other series as well, where like you just have to be able to trust guys that even if they're not the best offensive weapon, that you can trust that they will play defense, they will crash the boards, they will do those things. So I like the Thompson wagon as long as Durant's out as well. And then I think I have to look Rockets in that spot if we do get the 6 games. I agree with what Drew is saying that if Austin Reeves does come back, I did just check, no word yet as of tonight if he's going to be playing, but we're still about 2 hours from tip as we record, so easily possible he does end up playing. I assume he'd be limited. Obviously, they're not going to like rush him back, but the longer the series goes on and the more comfortable he gets in the series, it definitely will up their offensive output quite a bit. So I think if we get to Game 6, we probably are destined for Game 7. That's just kind of the hunch I have. I think the Lakers have to take care of the series in one of their 2 home games. That's just kind of the way I feel. But, you know, this series has been nuts, crazy. None of it makes any freaking sense. We've seen rock fights. We've seen some better play at times. I think the Rockets would win this game, but it will probably surprise me just a little bit if we even get here. So it's my take on it. Obviously, again, stay tuned this weekend. If we do end up with these games this weekend, you'll see clips about this stuff, particularly this series, because there's probably a lot of ways to play, especially with Reeves coming back and all that. We're going to see a lot of edges there. So stay tuned to our social media to see our final thoughts if we get here at all. And then the final, if needed, as we're recording this, is halftime of Magic Pistons. Pistons are up 6. So things hold. We will need this game. But again, the Pistons have struggled on the stretch in most of these first round games. So I'm not going to make any guarantees right now. But if we end up with Game 6 in Orlando between the Pistons and the Magic, what are we looking at, guys? Jake, do you think the Magic take care of business at home if it gets there?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to one of our guys we follow, Brandon Anderson, who has called this script almost to a T. He bet exact series outcome, Magic win, Detroit win, Magic win, Magic win, Detroit win, and then Magic clean it up in Game 6. If it holds tonight and the Magic win in Game 6, that plus 8,000 ticket will cash. And That's just how it's been going. This Magic team is just frisky, and then Detroit has struggled. They have games like tonight where it's just Cade Cunningham is absolutely dominating and putting the team on his back, and then he'll struggle. It happens, and nobody's been able to really pick up the slack if he does struggle, and so the Magic have been taking it. And I think that's what happens again.
Drew, you're going to play on our other hustle man, Asar Thompson. What are you looking at with him?
I'm just looking for lunch pail dudes out here. That's all I want. Yeah, Sar Thompson's been the absolute board king in this series. Got 9 at halftime here tonight. I'll be back on his rebounds again. I think all of us have his series leader ticket that is very much live because Jalen Duren has just been an absolute scarecrow in this series. So, yeah, give me some Asar Thompson rebounds.
Yeah, love the Asar Thompson look. I think the rebounds plus assists have both been pretty good looks in this series. Pretty much to do anything but score, I want Asar Thompson. So that's kind of where you're at with that. And then kind of what he also does and brings to the table plays into what I have to look at in this game. But if we go back to Orlando, where the Pistons have proven they struggle on the road, and there's either a limited or no Franz Wagner for the Magic, I want the under. We talked about it all series long. I like this series as an under series. Ironically, the game tonight looks like it's probably trending over, but that also is because we're at home. Pistons must-win scenario. That being said, I'm going to be looking back at the under, especially if the Magic don't have Franz Wagner's offense. I think getting Asar Thompson, being able to then go and put pressure on guards who are not as able to take the load on offense, whether it's Bane or, Black or any of these guys, I think that there's just more opportunity to keep the game lower scoring. And again, the Pistons shooting on the road has been pitiful. So it definitely looks like an under game to me, especially with no Franz Wagner. So that's where I'm going to be looking if we get there.
Shit, I didn't realize he had 10 rebounds in the first half. My God. This Jalen Duren guy is trash. Who called that?
Yeah, and what's funny is before we started recording, Duren had like 3 quick buckets, and Jake was like, "Oh, I might finally be wrong on Duren under points," and he's at 7 at half. So it's very much alive for Jake to continue just to hate on that man. Well, that'll wrap up all of our thoughts on the series. Again, stay tuned to our social media pages. Any of these games that go to a Game 6 or Game 7 this weekend, we'll cover. We'll give out our picks for that, and then we'll be back on Sunday to break down everything we saw. By the time we record Sunday, we should pretty much have all or close to all of the series and ready to go for round 2. So we'll cover all of that when we get there. Obviously, with these series winding down, there's less on the future side we want to shout out. Drew, looks like you have one future you want to throw out now. This is going to be a playoff-long, legitimate, real future, not just a series bet. But what are you looking at? And I think I kind of agree.
Yeah, looking at the Knicks to win the East, sitting at 460 on FanDuel right now. Shop around, see what you can get out there. But I think we're all in agreement that the Knicks take care of business against the Hawks, and we get the Celtics-Knicks matchup that we really wanted this whole time. I think that really, the winner of that series likely wins the East and moves on to the finals. I know that's maybe not a completely safe assumption given the Knicks had that opportunity last year and fell to the Pacers. But I think everything coming from the other side of the bracket in the East, pretty weak. I think the Knicks are playing pretty decent basketball, obviously heavily driven by Cat taking control of the Hawks series. I think that opportunity presents itself again against the Celtics. This is a Celtics team that is void of quality bigs, especially on the defensive side. I think you see Keita on him most of that series, and I just don't love that matchup if I'm a Celtics fan. I think there's a lot of concerns, and like we talked about with the Celtics, it comes down to three-point shooting. This is a defensive first team in the Knicks with that Mike Brown mindset, so I think they're super live. I think that series price will probably be lighter than we're expecting it to, and getting ahead of that with this future is a great value, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I agree. As much as I don't want to, I think I agree. I think I'm going to favor whoever comes out of the matchup, and I do really like this Knicks matchup, like especially what I've seen in the 76ers series. Like everything that has beaten the Celtics, including the shot variance issues, they're there with the Knicks, right? Like you said, the size inside, which could be a problem. A scoring guard that they kind of struggle to defend against. Wing defenders who, let's be honest, the Knicks have been building a roster for 3 years to try and beat the Celtics with the whole wing stop thing that they've built. And even with Mikal Bridges struggling on offense, like you could see the potential for this being a problem for the Celtics. So, and again, they beat them last year. I know Tatum ended up getting hurt, but they had that series won before Tatum got hurt. So, like, who says it can't happen again? I think I agree.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get there. I think this Knicks team. I'm not the biggest Brunson or Cat fan. I think they're both overhyped. I think they're very, very good players, but I do think they're both overhyped. And I just think that the Knicks it all depends on how they show up in game 1 and 2. It's like they got behind in this series against a far inferior team, and they were able to build back because they were just better. If you do that against the Celtics, you're not winning the series. So if they get behind like they did in this series 2-1, I think the Celtics come out and just handle them.
Not the same Celtics team. Like, I get that Tatum last year gets hurt in game 4 and they ultimately lose that series, but they were trending in the wrong direction even when he got hurt in game 4. I think they were down 2-1 and were losing in that game already. So it's not like that completely turned the series. I'd argue the Celtics were a much better team last year with Holiday and the bigs that they had at that time with Porzingis and others. I can't remember if he was fully healthy, but
I disagree with that.
You think this Celtics team is better than last year's Celtics team? Where?
I think Brown has emerged into the superstar that he should be and has completely elevated this team.
He had already emerged.
Good, but they're not better.
He had won an NBA Finals MVP. Like, he was the best player on their team for large portions of last season. Like, I don't think he's like his jump this season is like drastic enough to make up for the guys they lost.
But I think the game plan that they realized this season, not completely running the ball through Tatum, letting Brown handle a little bit of the offensive game plan, is much better than what they had last season, where it was all forced into Tatum, and then after game 4, like, they didn't know what to do.
I can see.
Yeah, I mean,
I can see a head-to-head in this series coming quickly.
I do not have a lot of respect for this Knicks team. I'm not gonna lie. I think they're so overhyped.
I mean, they're overhyped in a sense of they can struggle at times, but like this Celtics team is not, like, they've proven in this series alone that they will just drop games when the shooting variance goes against them, and that's not anything the Knicks control or don't control. So if you're telling me that they're gonna get 1 or 2 games, period, and now you're telling me we have to play a 3-game series instead of a 7-game series, like, chances are it can happen, right? Like, and what if the Knicks defense creates one more bad shooting night? And like Jalen Brunson, it's not like the Celtics are great defenders. Like, that dude can drop 40 at any time. There's no matchup for Cat. At least they had Porzingis and they had Luke Cornett last year. 2 guys who were better than anything they have on defense this year against Cat. Like, I don't know.
I think they just, honestly, I think it helps them. They just switch up the mentality. You go small ball and you just force them to the perimeter and just shoot them. Like, we'll see.
Yeah, maybe. Well, you know what? We'll save this argument because, number one, neither of those series are over. So Lord knows we just spent way too much time on it. That means one of those 2 teams is losing. That's what that really means. But we will cover all of that on our next episode because hopefully if we are correct about these series, we'll know that that's the matchup for sure. We can get all into the nitty gritty. We can talk about the series leaders. We can talk about all these matchups. We'll have some fun with it. And again, maybe it'll be our first true, real head-to-head that we'll have on the podcast for the NBA playoffs. So we'll save all that. We'll cut it here. Obviously, again, we don't want to sit around and argue over a theoretical because any more words we spill means one of those teams will lose. So we'll draw it here for now. We'll come back to it come Sunday and into the next couple of weeks, assuming that's the matchup we're going to have. But any other futures, any other series prop stuff you guys want to touch on before we get out of here?
I echoed it in the last episode of the podcast, but especially with the Cade Cunningham performance he's having in the first half, he is going to be significantly ahead in points for round 1. So, and I do think that this series ends in 6 games. So I really do like the Jamal Murray live to lead the series or to lead round 1 in points because I think that series could go 7. And it's just one extra game for a superstar, like, can cover any gap, even if it's a 20-point lead going into game 7. Like, it's
is the difference right now between the two of them?
Jamal Murray is at 130 and Cade was at 118 going into this game, which was a game behind. So
he'll have like
he's already scored 27.
Yeah. So I
So
get
he's
what you're
already
saying.
15 points
So
ahead.
yeah. If you like the Magic in
I was
Game
just-
6,
exactly.
you probably like the Murray look.
They have to lose Game 6
Yeah.
for him to hit that.
Now for me, this is a hedge because I, bet Cade Cunningham around 1 points, but I still like the look either way. Like, because you're like you said, he's gonna have like a 20, 25 point lead, so it's gonna get good value.
The only thing is Jamal Murray might not lead his own series in points.
True, but Jokic probably doesn't have as much value.
Yeah, well, obviously we got to see how the games play out, but I guess noted there, if you believe in the Magic like Jake does, and you also believe in the Nuggets like Jake does, looking at both Jokic or Murray, whoever you tend to favor in that matchup, would be a way to play like a little bit of an escalated version of the Magic winning in 6, especially if you don't want to just go and have to play, the Magic in Game 6 if you don't feel comfortable with that or you don't like what you see here today. So that's one other option there as well. And obviously if it goes 7, yeah, it's going to be Cade Cunningham. That's the leading scorer. That's just how it's going to go because of how well he's played in this series. So that's kind of that. But I like that look. That's a good note, especially if you did tell Jake on any of this previous stuff. It's a good note for him to put out there. All right, well, that'll bring us to the end of the show, everybody. Again, another fun one. Obviously, we talked about some theoreticals. We'll see how some of these series end up playing out. And as we kind of basically teased with our little bit of our Celtics and Knicks discussion, come Sunday night, we will be back to debate and start talking about round 2. We'll have some lines for some upcoming series there, especially if some of these series end in 6. We'll be ready to go for those. So stay tuned for that episode. It'll be fun. We'll be breaking down a whole new set of series props, series long leaders, all of that good stuff. So that'll be very fun, very interesting come the end of the weekend here. So stay tuned for that as well. As far as the agree board head to head, again, we kind of agreed on most stuff other than we're head to head on the Knicks to win the East future. That's really the only things we're going to tease for the upcoming week. But otherwise, you obviously heard our takes on all of this stuff, so we're going to kind of skip the repeating all of it on the agree board. But that'll bring us to the end of the episode, guys. Like we said, thank you for watching. As always, if you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to stay tuned with us for all of the end of round 1 and into round 2 coverage we're going to be doing. Hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever we drop an episode. Follow us on social media everywhere at There Will Be Bets for all of our latest up-to-date picks on all of these games, especially coming up this weekend as we head into the potential games we're not quite sure the numbers on. We'll be giving all of our picks out there. And then otherwise, as always, until we see you guys next time, we wish you the best of luck on your wagers.
Let's have a week.
There you go.